just recently got closed down. It's not closed down indefinitely.
No, temporary.
Temporarily, until they do some things. I think what are they doing? They got to get some things in order with the finances and everything. Right. But what do you think about people talking about they should move the zoo, or the zoo's not good there, or it's not being properly kept?
Well, it's not going to be properly kept if they keep it under private contractors that's in the business of taking money from the zoo and not being responsible administratively.
Right.
Matter of fact, they owe almost $1 million in water bill. They have borrowed money from the city on many occasions to pay staff. Now look at this. The city of Jackson hired the zoo organization, which is a private entity, gave them a contract to manage the zoo. They're supposed to make enough money to pay their salaries and take care of other responsibilities. Right. And here those guys are just like the people at the convention center, and they are paying them to do the job that they're supposed to be paying the city to do.
I always loved the zoo when I went there as a kid, but I don't necessarily like the location of the zoo.
Why you don't like the location? I
don't like no zoo or anything being next to a railroad track. I don't like no zoo. Like, I remember when I lived in New York, I went to the Bronx Zoo. And even though the Bronx Zoo is in the middle of the city, it's well kept. It's pretty fun zoo to go to, even to this day, I heard. The Jackson Zoo, I just remember just never always been as well kept as I wanted it to be. And I kind of feel like it being next to a railroad track kind of does something to the animals. Maybe it's kind of an anxiety thing, you got that big train that's coming through every now and then. The zoo's not that big. I kind of feel like that's another reason why the zoo's not as successful as it could have been, because the location, and not really saying maybe they need to move it. I don't know what they really need to do, but I just know that zoo can only evolve so much in that area.
Okay.
There's only so much that can happen.
Sir.
Now, they say it's on a whole bunch of acres, all this stuff. I understand that, but those acres are not being utilized as well as they could be, because, they've been losing a lot of animal attractions, ain't a lot of animals being there. So to me, like I said, I love the zoo, but at the same time, I think that location, West Jackson, got a lot to do with the reason why it's failed. And, it's a kind of crime around that area.
Well, you want the answer, or you want to?
Give me the answer.
All right. The real thing is, let's go with the first one. You talked about the train track disturbing the animals. Animals, in most cases, are smarter than people. Yeah. They care nothing about that train track because it does not disturb them. I'm going to give you an example.
Well, we don't know.
Listen now. I'm telling you now. You asked me the question, didn't you? I'm going to give you the answer. Those trains don't interrupt with the thought pattern and the activities of those animals. An example is, when I moved to college some years ago, I lived in a dormitory, and the train track was right by the window. The first night when it passed by, I jumped out of bed, rushed down the hall, went to the dean.
That's why I brought up.
Let me finish. Went down the hall. Badly, how can I stay up in here with all this noise? And the train track had been there for at least 50 years. The dormitory had been there 30 years. By the end of the week, that train would pass there at the same time, 4 or 5 times a day. And if I would be in the bed, I wouldn't even wake up. So that has nothing to do with disturbing those animals.
Well, that's what I was brought up to Brooklyn Zoo, because the Brooklyn got way more trains than Jackson.
Of course.
And they still found it reasonable to not put their zoo near a train track.
Well, because they had a choice and an option. They had places to put
That's what I was saying about Jackson.
But see, the Jackson Zoo used to be in a white neighborhood, as you know. And they maintained that neighborhood.
Well, Jackson used to be white.
That area was. All around Jackson State to the west, all that was white area. The black area of Jackson, behind Jackson State, was the southern part. That was the black area. Hill Street and places like that. The zoo was totally white. Only black folks that would go up around the zoo area were there during the day when they were working for white folks. So they eventually moved out. And when white folks move, the money follows them. So they start allowing black people to rent those houses. Then they allowed them to buy them. and many were not qualified to buy them and maintain them. And the city was so weak, they don't follow their own codes. They have these people don't. They let people violate the code.
What do you think they need to do with the zoo?
Very simple. They get a management team, give them a contract, set up some performance standards, and say in a 2 or 3 year period, you're going to have to do some economic development in that area. You're going to have to get rid of the blight. We're going to give you all the houses around here. You tear them down, sell the property to anyone that can afford to put up a structure that's going to get on the tax basis. We're going to widen the streets, fix the potholes, and beautify the area. And then we're going to turn it over to a marketing team that's going to influence foreigners to come to the zoo.
Okay.
Put it up on the Blues Trail. And when you get ready to go back to your country, you stop by the zoo. Have food areas there. And we're going to have 1 month is Chinese month. The next month going to be European month for Pacific countries. The next month is going to be African month for the African nations. And that will generate millions of dollars, millions. And then the last thing, they say we're going to have animals from the 7 continents, one from Asia, one from Africa, one from Europe, one from Australia. Totally different that they don't have. And that's when they will invite those countries in to come and look at their animal and encourage the country to pay for it.
Okay. All right.
That'll solve that problem.
Well, that sounds good.